Has anyone got any questions for John about the fall or about life? Or... Sarah, you have a question, which I have a microphone, so I'm going to ask. What was it like, John, interviewing Marquis Smith? Can you describe the situation for us?
Very quickly. Very good the first time. Really good the first time. It was really nice. He said, "Do you want to come out and Salford with us tonight?" And I wrote his phone number down on the beer mat, and like I've never regretted this since. I didn't go because I knew it was going to be slightly ropey, you know. And then the second time, there was a time when he wouldn't speak to anyone at NME. So like, it was just like a nice little scene of work for me. He would speak to me, and I was allowed to give my interviews to NME, so whatever. And that was always awful, because it was on the phone, and he'd always be pissed, and I couldn't understand what he was saying. And it was like, I didn't realise back then that, like, if he hated, really by this stage, and I mean kind of post-unutterable, he kind of hated talking about music. So he would just ramp up his pissness till he just couldn't understand what he was saying. And then you'd be like, "But have you been watching Come Dine With Me?" And suddenly he's super intelligible again, you know what I mean? And so like I had a lot of people, I noticed I got a lot of flack from Vizzy, you know, the official, well, the once official, now unofficial fall website for the British Masters interview I did with him, and everyone was like, "Fucking hell, stay on these questions. Why is he asking him about why is he asking him about Come Dine With Me and stuff like that? Why is he talking to him? Of all the questions he could have asked, why is he talking about Can't Cook, Coke, Won't Cook?" That interview was actually 2.5 hours long. I asked him loads about the fall, and the answer was all like, and the producer who didn't really know who the fall was like, "What's fucking wrong with this guy? Like, how could you can understand everything he says about cooking, but nothing about his own band?" So there you go. The last time, what I think, just to like really quickly, is it's different interviewing him on camera than it is interviewing him face to face down the pub when it's just you and him. And like a lot of, he's not unique as a musician for this. As soon as you turn the cameras on, he becomes the, in inverted quotes, Marquis Smith, rather than just Mark Smith, the guy down the pub or whatever. And that thing about, I think I said this for Noisy after he died, was he was totally normal before we started doing that film, and as soon as the cameras got packed away, he was normal again. He was like, "Should we go out for a drink?" And like, just totally normal. "Right, I'll see you later," you know. And I think like that's one thing I took away from the last interview I did with him was, it's like, you know, I kind of gets on my nerves a little bit when you watch that BBC documentary and you see, I don't want to point fingers actually, but some of my colleagues from a different generation or whatever who, you know, essentially think that the fall went shit the year they stopped listening to them. So like they're all like, you know, like these fucking cunts, they're all like, "Well, obviously their own shit after fucking Slates or whatever." That's absolute bollocks. You're just not bothered listening to it or whatever. But all these people saying, like pretending that somehow, oh, maybe we were fooled, and maybe this guy was just like a drunk tramp all along. And he kind of played up to that a little bit. But what I would say is he was actually always in control, you know what I mean? He gave you the amount of information that he wanted to give to you, you know what I mean? Yeah. What pubs in Manchester, Salford? Well, he was really good about this. So like when he didn't know who I was, he said, as he used to do to most journalists visiting from London, he would say, "I'll meet you in the bar of the Malmaison," which is Mick Hucknall's kind of swanky, stroke wanky hotel near Piccadilly. And the reason was because he was like a very thoughtful guy, you know what I mean? He'd be like, well, I can't imagine that some knobhead from the NME or record collector or whatever is going to be able to find Prestwich and find a working man's club in Prestwich. So I'll meet them next to the station so it's easier for them, and then they can get straight back on the train and get off. But when I'm, you know, after I spent like an hour or two with them, and it probably was like, "Where are you from?" "St Helens." "Oh, you have my commiserations." "Are you courting?" "Yeah, you are." It's kind of sussing you out. "Are you all right? Can I spend the rest of the afternoon with you?" Then you pass the test, it's like, "Right, should we go on?" and like pubs that, I mean, they would like, you know, I used to live in Manchester, and it would be always like some just fucking rum pub like the Juicy or the what was that awful pub that used to stay open all night, the Granby, the fucking Granby. You know, it's like pubs that would be like knee deep in DNA crime evidence on the floor or whatever. Well, you know, I mean, like, and then just like kind of like just not notorious pubs, just down at heel everyday boozers. Although I believe he used to take people to the Athenaeum. I know he took my mate Tom Sheehan, who's taken like loads of really brilliant photographs of Mark over the years.
It's that one in Prestwich, it's the Wallasey or something.
Well, I mean, I've got the beer mat somewhere, but when he was like, come and meet us tonight, we're out in Salford, and like I swear, he said this weird thing to me, he goes, John, I've got to go right now, and it was after 3 hours, and I was a bit pissed or whatever, and he was like, I've got to go right now, there's been a freak gust of wind, and it's blown all my mates' amplifiers off the pub roof. Here's where it is, I'll see you later. And I was like, yeah, see you later. No fucking way, I don't want to go to this pub, you know what I mean? But yeah. You know what? Like it was brilliant interviewing Mark E. Smith face to face. He was a nice guy, and I'm talking to someone who's been stabbed in 2 interviews and punched in 3. So there you go. And none of those were by him, all members of the Fall. So there you go. You know, I'll take that as a win.
I was going to ask John. They often say, well, it's often said about authors when they die. There's kind of a small sort of reappraisal of their work, and the test of whether the author will kind of remain relevant and cited is if their kind of work remains in print in the immediate kind of 2 or 3 years. The 2 or 3 years after they die is kind of the most important, just to see whether their kind of legacy will live on. I was wondering whether there's obviously been so much attention and so much commentary and stuff written about the fall of Mark E. Smith in the last few weeks. Do you think that a similar appraisal will happen now over the next 2 or 3 years, that people will start to, you know, artists will be kind of laying heavy their influence?
I think you've had a little bit of that already, but not. I mean, I agree with him. I think his posterity has been assured for about 2 decades, a decade and a half now, and it's just like literally bloody-mindedly sticking at it, even though it was to the detriment of his happiness, his looks, arguably, his health. You know, like having any kind of like stable romantic life, starting a family, you know, he was a very traditional kind of guy, you know, I'm sure everyone who he came up with in school had a family, you know what I mean? And like, so at the detriment of everything else, he stuck at it when nearly everyone else didn't. You know, you could like, I've written down a little sign here to hold up every time I say something that he would have hated. He would have hated this, but you know, there's only a few people, and he hated being compared to all of them, you know, maybe Alan Moore, the comic book writer, and Billy Childish. These people who've always resisted the kind of crappy urban magnetism of like London or the centre of Manchester or wherever, and stuck doggedly at doing their own thing and ring fencing it to a degree that is kind of insane. You know, half the bands that Mark used to slag off, like he didn't hate them that much. He was just it was part of his process. He had to ring fence the Fall as being just the Fall, you know. And he told me, he said like when I brought up, like the first interview I did with him, you know, I like to think I asked some good questions, but you end up asking a few dead obvious ones as well, like, you know, what do you think of Pavement or whatever. And he's like, you know, he stopped the recorder and said to me, he goes, look, John, you know, he goes like, I'm not gonna slag off Pavement or whatever, but you have to have this, if you want to do what I do, you have to have the attitude that your band is the only band that counts, and it's the best band of all time. And if you don't have that attitude towards it, what's the fucking point of doing it? You know. But yeah, I think he's, you know, he played the long game, the longest of long games. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I can't see anything that would happen to destroy his legacy now. To be brutally honest, what a body of work! It's fucking incredible, isn't it? You know what I mean? What a body of work. I mean, it's not as big as some bodies of work, but still, you know, the stuff, I was hearing stuff in that album just then that I'm not sure that I've noticed before even, you know what I mean? So there's a lot to pick over, isn't there? And like, you know, bands who people say they sound like The Fall, they never sound like The Fall really, do they? Do you know what I mean? It's like in the same way that new neo crowd rock bands, when you get a band in 2018 that claims to be crowd rock, which crowd rock bands are they supposed to sound like? They don't sound like any crowd rock bands that I own. What they mean is they've got a drummer who can do a passable impersonation of Klaus Dinger and a bass player who's only kind of talented enough to play one note. You know, that's not really what the spirit of crowd rock is. And like people who think that they're sounding a bit like The Fall, well, they don't really, do they? You know. Especially not Prince on Dance School. You know.
I don't know, what about Franz Ferdinand?
Franz Ferdinand is a great band. And there are loads of great indie bands who've been influenced by The Fall, like Suede are clearly a band who've been influenced by The Fall. You know, you can sort of hear it. LCD, well, all right, okay, yeah, there's something a bit more there. But like those two got on like a house on fire. It's weird. You see photographs of them out having a pint together, laughing their heads off, and then in the papers it's all like, oh, that fucking cunt. You know, I don't know. I mean, like I think that it's record collector rock, isn't it? LCD Sound System. But I love that band because there's something very, very intelligent about the recombination of sounds that they use. And it's not like he sounds like Marky Smith all the time. And the main point is he's not. James Murphy's a really good lyricist, but he does not write lyrics like Mark Smith. But he has got that kind of nasal kind of delivery. You know.
Has anyone else got anything they'd like to ask? I don't think the mic will stretch, so...
It's all right, not shouts. A thread throughout The Fall's history has been the women who Marky Smith was with. Did you ever talk about them?
I would have to... the only one that I can remember off the top of my head is Eleanor, you know, and I interviewed them together, and they seemed really happy. And I think it was in the lead up to, I think it was Your Future, but I'd have to go back, and my memories are so bad these days. But nothing specifically. I kind of wish that I'd asked that more, and I'll tell you what. I had a word with some kind of musician friends of mine like years ago. And like they ended up forming this group called Fallen Women. And I persuaded them to do it. And I was like, Julia Nagel always wanted there to be an all-female lineup of The Fall, and she nearly pulled it off for one gig, but it didn't happen. And I was like to my mates, you've got to do this. You know what I mean? Do it and maybe even get Smith to sing. And that never happened. But they play now with, you know, whoever. It is interesting. I'm like, you know, I don't have any particular insights into it. You'd be better off talking to Dave Simpson, I guess. Like his book, The Fall, and that's one of the really good aspects of that book. You know, it tells a story that's often.
They're always very influential, actually. I think, weren't they?
Well, I mean, look at Una Baines. You know what I mean? There would be no Fall without Una Baines. You know. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, you know, that was as a teenager, as a schoolboy, when I was first getting into The Fall. You know, they wouldn't have got that into that imperial Beggars Banquet period without Briggs.
She was pure. She really was. I really think that.
I think so. And I'll tell you what's really, if you look at those old footage of those two being interviewed together on the TV, it's really, really clear how much in love they are.
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's amazing, like the way that they're kind of, they are peers. That's a good way of putting it. They're obviously equals in the band.
It's the same with Pam as well at the end when that 100 Club gig when she got on stage.
That was amazing, wasn't it? So like I was at that gig and like I was kind of
100 Club.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant because like the way that I looked at that was I kind of knew how ill he was at that point, and I was thinking, right, I might not see him again, but I'm going out of The Fall the way I came in a state of what the fuck is going on? This is really exciting, and it's a bit scrappy, and it's weird, and I don't know exactly what I think of it, but it's really exciting. Who's this woman? Why is she singing Mr. Pharmacy? It was fucking great. What a chaotic evening, you know. I know they played a few more gigs since then, but I was like happy to have been there, really, you know. And she was great. She was like a good artist in her own right, Pam. You know what I mean? I think she. Yeah, she used to do a lot of stuff up at Islington Mill with people like Nod and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Anyone else got any questions? Yeah.
I was going to ask two things. I was going to ask about the Fallen Women, weirdly enough, because I saw them last Sunday, and you haven't heard of them. They're absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, I read the reviews.
Oh,
I saw
it's
that pretty quickly.
astonishing, and they're the perfect full tribute band, because you never have an actual full tribute band, because anyone trying to be Marquis Smith obviously is going to massively fail. So they just bring up a new person every song. It's incredible.
It reminds me of some of the gigs that I'd soon forget from the 90s, though, where it often was somebody in the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, they're incredible. Well, I was going to ask about, because you interviewed him in 2006, well, around the Reformation time, and one of the most criminally overlooked times of his life is his work with von Sudenfeld.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That album is incredible. And it just seems to have been sort of paid, like no one seems to remember it anymore. Like, so I was wondering, like,
when I was DJing,
was he making it at the time that?
What's the name of this album for those who don't know?
It's called Chromatic Reflections. It's absolutely amazing.
It's with Mouse on Mars.
So if you go by the jurisprudence of if it's me and your grandma and bongos, it's the Fall. Then this is a Fall album, and it's one of the best Fall albums, I think. Fleder Mouse Can't Get It, absolute stomper, you know. But there's got like really, you know, more reflective songs like Rhino Head on it, absolutely brilliant. He always made out, and he had this, you know, you've probably seen this. He had a bit of a quasi-comical, casually racist way to talk about German people. You know, and
he loved Germans.
No, of course he did. Of course he did. And what the impression I get is that behind the scenes, he would always go on about Mouse on Mars, saying, "Oh, they won't have me in the studio. I'm banned from working with them." And they'd always crop up, going, "What are you talking about? We love you. The door's always open." You know. And I think it was just part of this kind of performance he put on. They did do another thing together. They, as Mouse on Mars, it was an EP that came out a couple of years beforehand.
Yeah.
I believe they always intended to, but it was just they never got round to it. What an amazing album!
Oh,
you know.
I can never believe that they didn't make a second album. It just would have been perfect. But like I said, I think that first album is astonishing.
The Fall, amongst many other things, a very underrated disco band though. So one of the things I noticed through doing these kind of 4 or 5 hour Fall sets is just how many coppered bottom bangers they put out. And also, if you kind of like, you know, I'm not the world's greatest DJ, but I do a bit of mixing, and you know, you can mix something like High Tension Line into house music, and that's how tight the band were at that point, you know. So I think it was something that Smith was very aware of through different stages of his career, and then, like, I'm glad that that side of it existed to counterbalance the more kind of garage rock, you know, sort of thing, you know, like the main track from Curious Orange, absolute disco masterpiece. Obviously they covered Sister Sledge, and that's not ironic, you know what I mean? That's a fucking fantastic cover version, you know. And also, you know, like, not all of their remixes were great, were they? But some of them, you know, some of them slam, man.
Yeah.
Anyone else got anything you'd like to ask? Okay, well, in that case, can we all thank John Doran very much indeed for coming down and talking about it before? Talking of Krautrock 2018, I just wanted to end with a song by a band from Salford who are probably one of the shining lights of the new kind of heavy psych kind of movement in music. This is a band called Nod, and similar to the Fall, we've got a very revolving lineup. John's performed with them. I've seen John perform with them before. And they change their sound and their style drastically with every new album. So from acid rock, and I did an album with the band White Hills, to kind of really noise and drone, to an album that was released last year, which was probably, I think, for my money, the best album of last year, which went by the incredibly measured and politically ambiguous title of Just Say No to the Psycho Right-Wing Capitalist Fascist Industrial Death Machine. which if you haven't heard, you must immediately. And this is from that album. This is called Real Man.